And good evening and welcome to City Focus. I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and tonight I'm delighted to have a whole new group of guys I haven't met before on the set. And you can tell I've got my New London High X hat on for being an ex-football player at the school. So that kind of gives you an idea of the theme for tonight's program. We've got the new coach at New London High School, Bobby Sanchez. And Coach, I want to welcome you to the program.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And we've got a couple of the ball players here, and we've got Kiki Irizarry and Derek Burres. Did I get that right?
That's
Switch.
I'm going to get you guys right before the end of the program.
You got the Kiki part.
Well, that's hard to screw up. But anyway, gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
And let's have some fun. We're going to discuss New London High School football and what you guys are doing and what your plans are to get this program moving in a positive direction. And as much as the football is important, you have to also perform in school as well. Mm-hmm. So, Coach, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself here? You're the new gun in town here. There's a beautiful article in the paper. It kind of, I think, gave a nice outline of you and where you've come from. But for those who may not have seen that, you're a Midwestern guy.
Yeah. Born and raised, grew up in Chicago. As the article touched on, mother's from an Irish family, father's first generation Puerto Rican, and lived in the same neighborhood, very diverse neighborhood, north side, the shadows of Wrigley Field. So we all grew up Cubs fans, Bears fans, Chicago Bulls fans. So when you're born into a city like that, you don't really have a choice of what teams you follow.
I've been to Wrigley 3 times.
Have you really?
Yeah. I think it's a shrine. Everybody should go there at least once.
I owe a lot of my life to Wrigley Field because I worked there as a young kid. We ran souvenirs for my uncle's souvenir stand. My wife and I met after a Cubs game, being able to grow up in that area, where sports are celebrated, athletics are celebrated so much in that area. It was a huge part of our lives growing up. So, it's no coincidence that, my father played sports, my cousins played sports, my sister and I both were 3-sport athletes. So, it was just it's who you are when you grow up in an area like that. So,
I want to touch on that, but
sure.
but not necessarily right this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Multi-sports. I want to get the young folks here plugged
Sure.
into the program too. Now, you guys born and bred New Londoners, or have you moved into the community, or are you part of the magnet program?
I'm actually part of the magnet program. I grew up in Gryan, and I moved around Norwich, Gryan, but I've always been to New London schools.
Oh,
so
really?
I've always been involved in New London, playing youth football for New London. So, yeah, but I live in Norwich currently right now, but I still attend New London High School.
Okay, and what year are you going to be in the fall? Or what year are you now? We're in the middle of the school year, I guess. So
Yeah.
Currently right now I'm a junior, so
Okay.
I'm class of 2024. By the time next season I'll be a senior, so
Okay.
my last season I London, but currently right now I'm a junior in high school.
And
Yeah.
what's your story?
I lived in New London my whole life. Youth football growing up. I always went to New London schools. Yeah, I'm gonna be a junior. Well, I am a junior.
You're a junior now. So what kind of responsibilities do you see for yourselves going into next year as seniors? I mean, the younger classmen are going to look at you as team leaders. I would suspect they're going to expect you guys to show the way
Yeah.
by example as well as by your performance.
Yeah. So we have workouts right now, and as of right now, they already look up to us. We're already leading the team. I say we go in there, work hard every day, and we lead by example.
Yep, that's important. And you guys both academic stars?
Yes.
Yeah, I made honor roll.
Good for you. That's good stuff. You an honor roll student
Yes,
too?
Coach.
All righty, well that's important.
So one thing I did when I first got in, accepted the job in my first couple weeks that I got in, I made it very important to the coaches that we establish what we call an inner circle. And the inner circle is essentially a group of players that we hold interviews for. They come in, they have to express why they feel like they should be leaders of the team. And this year we chose 8 of them. And usually I don't do it, or in years past in other programs, we wouldn't do it until the spring or even the early summer. But I thought the sense of urgency, establishing that core group of leaders within the team was critical. And fortunately, we have a pretty good size junior class that's going to be seniors. So there's a good group of guys that applied and wanted to be in those spots. And I feel like our 8 that we have as the inner circle members are, they're a good mix of guys. They're, diverse group of kids, and each one of them has his own little imprint on the program so far. So it's, we're in a good place as far as leadership.
That's good. That's a good sign. I'm pleased to hear that. There was an article recently in the paper, a column by Mike DeMauro. The theme was baseball, actually, regarding recruiting and moving into the next level, and they were kind of going from Babe Ruth into high school and whether to be going AAU and this, that, and the other thing. And sometimes I think the theme of that was to encourage kids to kind of stay at home. That the grass isn't necessarily always greener on the other side. Where if you go on to an AAU team or a traveling team or you break away from your community, that sometimes that's not necessarily in your best interest. And there's a lot of pressure today to do that, which didn't exist back in the old days.
Yeah, nowadays it's a lot of like the transferring and different stuff, and it's just all over the place with that. A lot of kids feel like they'll be better off at a different school instead of like the hometown.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and it's. I think that doesn't necessarily play well, but I think if you guys do a good job holding things together, you'll keep give the younger folks a reason to stay.
Yep. Like there's some kids last season. We barely had any freshmen last season. We probably had like 3 freshmen on the team because instead of coming up to play high school, they decided to do like a travel football league. So we had probably like 3 freshmen on the whole entire team.
So there was no freshman program.
No freshman program. The JV
Not
was
at
just
all.
sophomores and juniors.
But there was a JV team.
Yeah, there was a JV team, but it was a lot of juniors and a lot of sophomores.
Man, that's not good.
Yeah.
You got your work cut out for you.
It's part of the initiative for me is establishing a freshman sophomore schedule, making sure that we have a reason for those students that are coming in as freshmen to join New London football early and have something to look forward to as they're rising 8th graders. I can remember when I was coming in as a freshman to high school, putting on the jersey of the team that you had been watching since you were in 2nd, 3rd grade up through 8th grade. That was
or even playing pee-wee or youth football,
right.
You're wearing the green and gold at that level.
And I mean, it's an exciting thing. It should be an exciting thing. It should be something that kids should look forward to. A freshman coming in, and to Kiki's point, I don't even necessarily blame those players that were freshmen playing, youth or playing on a private team because kids want to play. You want to put the effort in, you want to work, but then at the end of the day, you want to get on the field and you want to improve on the field. Mm-hmm. And if you're a freshman and you're not getting the chance, you're trying to play on a JV squad with a bunch of sophomores and juniors, it's not the best situation. So trying to facilitate different levels of opportunity to compete and to play is a big priority of mine.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got a job now at the school, correct?
I do. I start on Monday. Yeah.
Oh, you start on Monday. Well, I think that's important that you, as the head coach, are working at the school and in the school because you'll have an opportunity to get a feel of the culture of the school, the kids, see your players, see potential players. I mean, in years going by, the coach would be, they were primarily teachers, which is not necessarily the case anymore. You take the basketball program and Coach Parker. I mean, I went to school with him. We go back to grammar school and we played football in London together. But at that time, I mean, the coaches would be there, and if they'd see a big guy like you, and if you weren't on the team, they kind of take you by the elbow and tell you, you might want to consider going out for the football team.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're not there, you don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
Or you don't know the kids. Or you
Right.
don't know. You know, maybe one of your players will say, so and so would be a real good asset to our team, and we need to get this young fellow motivated.
Sure. Sure.
Like, what better way to get a kid to want to play football than the head coach in the school, like,
Working in the school,
encouraging
yeah.
them and
Yeah.
like seeing them in the hallways and letting them know like you would be a great asset to the squad. So I feel like that's going to be a really good thing with Coach Sanchez being in the school now, is we can get players who want to play football and encourage them to come play.
You know, I mean, talent is important. You know, you've got talent helps win games. If you don't have talent, no matter how hard you work, it makes it daunting.
Yeah.
Agreed. No, it's one thing I preached to my coaching staff. One of our first meetings we had, I said, we need to understand that it's not the talent that we have, it's the talent that we build. Because this is high school, it's not college. In college, you go recruit talent.
Yep.
In high school, you build talent, you develop talent.
Yep.
And there's no excuse for a coaching staff as far as talent is concerned if you're training the whole year round. If it's a 365-day-a-year job, and it's a program that runs like that, well, then you're constantly developing those freshmen that are coming in and playing, the sophomores, the juniors that are coming up. You're turning the juniors into leaders. You're turning the freshmen and sophomores into varsity players. If you're doing that, then talent, you know, it's always a concern. It's always, you know, a big factor. But if you're doing whatever you can to develop your talent, you know, you should be able to get yourself right by the fall.
Yeah. And you guys are in skilled positions, both you guys. But as an old lineman, I can tell you, treat those guys right, because if they'll make you or break you.
Yeah.
I love my linemen.
Marty, you'd be a slot receiver right now in this game.
Yeah.
At 180 pounds, you'd be playing slot, maybe a tight end.
So but the linemen, you know, they can make you shine. And if you're you know, the QB and you're running for your life, it's hard to throw passes and direct an offense.
Yeah.
So you need those guys doing their job, and they've got to be motivated. They got to be in shape for the whole game. They can't just play for a half. They got to.
Yep.
Well, I think you hit it, the M word, motivation.
That's it.
Because you know, these guys, the ball is their motivation. The skill guys, the ball is their motivation. I think you know, one thing that Coach Tim King at Valley really taught us and really harped on in my first couple of years was the dogs, getting the dogs fired up, getting those linemen, you know, motivated and passionate about what their job was, because they don't have the ball as motivation. They are playing for the team. That's it, and they're playing for each other. And I think, you know, the cool thing about it is the game has evolved and the game has modernized and changed, especially the offensive side.
Yeah.
But when it gets cold and it gets late in the season, you still got to be able to run the ball. You still got to be able to stop the run if you want to win big games. That hasn't changed. And I think motivating the guys that, you know, are not incentivized by the stats, I think that's really the trick of it.
Yeah, well, the fundamentals, I mean, still you have to block and tackle and, you know, do your job. That was one of the things, you know, that football teaches you, a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
There's the game. You got your own individual challenges of whatever position you're playing, but you're also depending on the other 10 guys on the field. Because if there's a breakdown, plays break down, or touchdowns occur on the other side of the ball, the other team will, because somebody made a boo-boo. I mean, it's amazing how that works. The coaches know what they're talking about. You got to listen to them. Don't ever get to a point where you start thinking you know more than the coaches, because they really are pretty sharp guys, and they're skilled at what they're doing. Yeah. And I mean, just as a quick example, I mean, in my last game against Fitch was over at Dorfield in Groton, and there was an opening on a kickoff team, and I never did that. I was an offensive guard, and always taught stay in your lane when you're going down on a kickoff. So you don't go wandering around the field because you're creating an opening for him. Well, I'm going down the field, and this fast guy, he goes that way, I go that way, he cuts back. Where do you cut back? Where I was. Well, that didn't work out so well. So the coaches know what they're talking about. Pay attention to them.
Well, one thing we talk about a lot is that the player-coach relationship, coach-to-coach relationship, player-to-player relationship, it's all trust. It's all built on trust. Do you trust the coach that's teaching you the technique? Do you trust that he knows what he's talking about? Your teammate that you throw the ball to, are you trust that he's going to catch? Do you trust that he's going to catch it? The guy that's throwing the block for you, do you trust that he's going to make the block for you? It's all a matter of putting that trust. But the tough thing is that trust is something that's earned. Trust is something that's established. And if you are waiting to build trust until the fall, it's too late. It's trust between players and individuals needs to be established early, and a winning culture, a winning mindset needs to be established early. If you're trying to establish those things in the fall with football, it's too late.
Now, did you you touched on this earlier, as growing up that you played 2 sports?
I played football, baseball, basketball growing up.
You played 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it seems as if kids today are encouraged to kind of hone in on a sport. Do you encourage kids to play more than one sport? Or if they are, that's okay? Or would you prefer that they are football players?
No, I mean, I will tell you, the way that I would answer that is I want competitors. I want guys that are going to compete. And the best way to learn how to compete is to compete. You can't train in a facility, in a weight room, in anything. You cannot train for 2/3 of the year and then assume you're going to be a better competitor. It's just not going to happen. I mean, sports are sports. Competition is competition. Winning is winning. Losing is losing. And you have to be able to deal with that. You have to be able to work through that. Had I not been a baseball player and played a sport where 3 out of 10 times you succeed, 7 out of 10 times you fail, you're a good baseball player. If I had not grown up with that mindset or understanding how to deal with failure, I would not have been a good football player. I would not have been a good basketball player. Mm-hmm. I would say some of the best players that I have coached, the Chris Jean-Pierres, the Garrett Burdicks of the world, the Matt Saperis, the Dan Stetchers, kids that were not just multi-sport players, they were successful multi-sport players. And each sport built upon the next. And it's the competitive nature. It's the fact that you cannot simulate competition, high-level competition, anywhere else except for on the field or the court or the diamond or the ice.
There we go. And we got a call.
Great. It's probably from Macho.
Good evening, and you're on the air.
Is this the great Hall of Fame, Marty Olsen? Is that your Hall of Fame tie for football?
Yep, it's my green and gold tie, Michael.
You better have green and gold on because I'm listening to these young men and they are impressing me immensely. I will get a chance to probably see them some this year because for the past 40 years I've done all the high school sports around here, and I had the privilege of even doing a state championship win for Timmy King down at Valley, and I did the first game I did was in 1983 when New London won a state championship with the great Juan Ramon and the rest of those playing. So I'm looking forward to see what they do.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, now this gentleman, he does radio, so he's on top of the game, and he's a New London guy. Mm-hmm. So he follows you guys closely, and he'll know what you're doing.
What was the name? Mike
McLaughlin.
Mike McLaughlin.
But Marty, the big thing that I really like the best is the 2 young men are there with the coach. That shows us that we're going to see some people, we're going to do some things, because we haven't been as good as we could have been, but we got a chance to get back to where we were, and we ranked with the best teams in the state. That green, that gold is so important, and you know what I mean? I welcome the new coach immensely. I know what he did at Valley Regional, because I know, not greatly, but I know Coach King some, And I'll tell you what, we have a chance to get back, Marty, to where you and I want to be. And we'll be glad to see all the people in the stands again. And we'll be looking forward to seeing some more state championship banners up there.
Yeah.
Michael, always a pleasure. Anything you'd like to say?
And Marty, great selection. I want to thank the two kids for coming to the game. They probably could have went to the basketball game tonight, so they got to be committed to football.
Well, hopefully they'll be able to chance to watch some of it, whether it be on TV or if they scoot up to the casino after the program.
We'll do what we can, Marty, but thank you. Thank you for having the coach. Good luck, Coach.
Thanks for
Appreciate
calling,
it,
Michael.
Thank you.
Yep.
And he's spot on. I mean, there's a guy who's a historian about New London and New London athletics.
Honestly, just hearing him talk, it just fires me up. If I'm being honest, just hearing that, it makes me feel something. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I just can't wait for the season. But like, it all starts now in the weight room and preparing for the season. But I just can't wait.
Well, you work out, you get prepared mentally and physically, and and remember that you're in school to learn.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't. The colleges aren't going to look at you if you're not performing academically. You've got to understand that. I mean, no matter how good you are, and we've had some good athletes at New London High School over the years, and some of them haven't moved on to the next level because they didn't perform in school. They thought that their athletic ability alone was going to get it done, and it doesn't. And the competition at the next level is significantly steeper than it is at the high school level. Every kid playing college ball, D3, they were captain of their team, all state, all conference, all something. It's not the 14th guy on the bench. They're all players. So you kind of have to have your focus.
That's something I like about this program. When we have our days off on Wednesday, we have study hall. We do our schoolwork all together, chemistry build, all that.
The the thing that I really like about the magnet school format with New London and what it's gone to is they're coming to school each day, and they have a concentration, they have a focus, a career-based concentration. And myself being a STEM teacher, engineering and architecture teacher, I could not be more excited about that, because each player that I have, I'm going to know what their student life is like, because it's going to be, depending on what magnet they're in, it's going to be very specific. And being able to speak to that and not just asking them, oh, hey, how are classes going? You know, if they're in culinary, asking them, hey, what are you guys cooking? What are you working on? You know, if they're in my engineering program, you know, what kind of concepts are you learning in engineering? What kind of science? You know, are you in physics? Are you in chemistry? You know, and having specific talks about that, so it's not just surface level. It's really diving deep. You know, the way that you're supposed to teach, the way you're supposed to mentor. You know, following up and doing it not just in passing, but really kind of diving into it.
Yeah. Well, a gentleman that I was coached when I was in school, Coach Gil Vargas, he was an assistant football coach, and he was the head baseball coach. And he and I, as adults, have become friends, and we will come and watch you guys play. And we go to basketball games together and things of that nature. And I mean, he was a gym teacher, as was Coach Bunicor, I might add. So they were both in the school. And but with the baseball, he told me, he says, I mean, that the teachers would keep him apprised of how his kids were doing, so that you try to minimize bumps in the road. So if the kid's having problems or struggling or whatever it may be, that they can try to get things ironed out so things don't become a problem. And I think that's important. Again, that's getting back to you being in the school. I think that's a critical component that will help with our players.
You know, a lot of people have asked me why I had not applied for a head coaching job earlier. You know, and I've explained to them that being in the school, being in the building, I would not have wanted to take on this type of responsibility without being able to have it all centered. You know, the teaching job, the coaching job, everything being centered, because if you want to do this to the best of your ability, it needs to be that way. It needs to be a constant connection with the players, the coaches, the players. Everybody needs to be together. You know, I tell we get a little Spanish talk going. We say juntos. Juntos means, you know, being together, and you know, everybody. No one works out alone. No one lifts alone. If we want to improve, we need to improve together. And I know it's kind of common sense, but if you're not physically in the same place together, how are you developing together? You can't. So we're constantly telling these guys, you know, and I will say, I know how fortunate I am with the timing of me getting here with this group of rising seniors, because they've all played together since you guys were youth. Right. So, you know, so telling a group of guys that have played together since they were young that they need to be together, it's not a hard thing to do. But what it's doing is it's allowing them to personify, or them to, you know, make an example of that for the younger players. Make an example of that, and that's going to be their legacy. Their legacy is going to be whatever the record is, you know, whatever the success is on the field, but the legacy is going to be, hey, this is the way that we do things around here. This is the culture that we're establishing here. Because without culture, success doesn't happen. And, you know, you succeed together. So let's roll the boat, right, fellas?
One thing that we were taught years ago, and I think it still stands today, I mean, and whether you understand it as a student, I mean, being a football player in general, but being a football player at New London makes you a special guy. I mean, when you're walking down the hall, people know you play football, and they look up to that. I mean, whether you think so or not, they do. And these younger kids, I mean, they kind of in awe. That you're the quarterback, or you're the end, or you're the defensive back, or the linebacker, whatever position you're playing. They know you play. And that's special. You put on those pads. So, you know, you have to maintain that level of integrity too. You can't kind of let yourself go and do silly things. Try not to we all make mistakes, but don't go out of your way to make them.
There's times where it's like I forget, like, the responsibility I have on my position. Like, when I really sit back and think, like, I'm the starting quarterback for New London High School, and, like, all the history, and there's been times where I could go to a grocery store and I have a New London shirt on, and I get stopped by a guy who used to play 30 years ago, and talks to me, stops me for 20 minutes and just talks about the history and what he did at the high school. So it's honestly just a great feeling to be able to be a part of this program, all the history, and have such an important position as well, and know that.
We've had some pretty darn good quarterbacks in our school here, I'll tell you. Going back to the early 60s, Dave Connors, he went to Purdue. He was a backup to Bob Greasy when they went to the Rose Bowl.
That's my territory. Purdue's West Lafayette. I know it very well. Yeah. I will say, to Kiki's point, the talk around the town, the hope to bring the program back to prominence. 2 years ago, I said this to these guys. I showed them their record last year, but then I showed them their record 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they were 6-4. Before I got here, they were 6-4, and they were something like 18, 20 points away from.
Loss was under a touchdown.
So I mean, you're talking 18, 20 points away from being possibly 10-0. So it's there. It just needs to be accomplished and then sustained. And that's the thing. I think the challenge is not just getting there once, and not just relying on a good senior class or a good collection of players in a year. It's my challenge is to take these guys, use them as the example, like I was saying. They set the tone for their program. And I tell them this all the time. It's their program. I'm here to facilitate. I'm here to lead them the best that I can, but it's their program. They're from here. They grew up here. They know the history. They're getting stopped in the store. Sure. They're having the conversations. And, you know, and I'm excited to be a part of that and become a part of that. But, you know, this upcoming year for them, especially them as seniors, you know, this is the pinnacle of their experience as athletes in this town. And, you know, I'm going to do everything that I can to make that successful. But, you know, I'm still going to be there after they go. And I want this year to be, I've told them this from day one, I want this year to be as special as possible for them. And if it is, that's going to help us rolling forward. So when they come back as alumni, they can feel proud. They can feel like they contributed to the future of this program. So.
Well, I'm getting a good feel from just listening to you fellas. So that's positive. I'm looking forward to watching you guys play this coming fall. That'll be good. I hope we get back to Friday nights. That's.
I hope so. Last year was, oh my gosh.
I don't think that helped either. I think that, there was kind of a dark
Terrible.
cloud hanging over things there, and it was not.
All the games were like Saturday, 11 a.m.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even because of us. It was because there was like fights in the bleachers with middle schools.
And on top of that, it was like switched last moment too.
Yeah.
We'll be ready for a Friday game, and then they'll switch it right to Saturday.
So get back to the Friday night lights, and you guys got to maintain your focus, and don't allow outside distractions, be they on the field or off, to distract you from your mission. You got to maintain that focus. You can't be allowing others, third parties, to pull you away from what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And there are wise guys that'll do that.
Yeah.
And you got to be mature and smart.
We've talked about the culture of the program and how we want our vibe as a group. We want our vibe as a program to be positive in every way, shape, and form. And then we want that positivity to start to expand like a bubble. Mm-hmm. And then as it expands, those people that are maybe, and that's not even necessarily people, it's just the way the world is. It's negative influences all over the place. But we want to take negative influences and we want to turn them into positive motivators. And the way you do that is your culture starts to grow and you start to turn those things positive. And then as they come in, everybody wants to be a part of success, last I checked. And so if we're on our game and our vibe is good and our positivity is being spread, then people won't have a choice but to get on board.
That's one thing. Like you started off, you said how the games used to be packed. I feel like that's another thing. Now we're lucky to get 200, 300 people now, but next season if we go out there and are winning and people are going to have no choice, like, oh, the Whalers are back how they used to be, whatever they want to say, and I feel like it will just be a good vibe. And more people will start coming and supporting.
Winning will help, but a good positive vibe about the team as well. If you guys have got if the people can feel that positive energy, they'll want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to have to strive for. And that gets everybody in the team involved. Whether it's the water boy or the trainers, the third string left tackle, everybody's got to feel like they're part of the team.
Purpose.
And they're playing an important part. It's just not the guys who catch the ball or throw the ball, but you need everybody. When you're practicing, generally, at least once upon a time, the first team would be kind of going against the second or maybe third team guys when you're in there running through your plays, so you can practice. But those guys who are on the second team have got to feel that that's an important part, that they're making you better.
Yeah.
And you're making them better at the same time. So that, the next man in, somebody gets hurt, and people do get hurt, or they get sick or whatever, somebody's got to step in and play. You got to feel confident that person is coming into the game to do the job.
Yeah. Strongest as your weakest link.
We talk about our mantra going in this year is row the boat, and I thought it was fitting as the Whalers to have a mantra like that. And one thing we've talked about, and we're going to continue to talk about, is if you're in the boat and you're not rowing, well then you're dead weight, and you're not contributing. So every man pick up an oar, every man get this boat going in the right direction, whether it's upstream, downstream, big current, no current, whatever it is, everybody pick up an oar and everybody start rowing and getting this thing going in the right direction. And it's going to take a lot of guys putting oars in the water. Sure. But I will say this, one thing in my first month of experience here is the humility that these guys have. The things I've asked them to do so far, they answer the call. They're not afraid to do it. They are willing. Just the other day, I told the upperclassmen to switch up our workout and to switch up our personnel so that the older guys were matching up with some younger guys. And the older guys, you know, it could be a little frustrating because you're trying to do your workout and you're trying to improve, but you might be having to work with this kid on his power clean technique or his bench pressing technique. But what it's doing is it's establishing that camaraderie, and it's making every person in the program feel important and feel like they have purpose, which is you know, there's no value add for that. You can't measure that. Yeah. That's culture. That's establishing a winning culture in February and in March. You know? And these older seniors, these juniors, rising seniors, I would say this: if you were around them for a couple days, you would not know that they had a 2-8 record. You would not know that, because they are ready and they are willing and they want to be successful.
And one thing you have to understand, even coming off a 2-8 season, the other schools in our area still put a check mark when they're playing New London. Yeah. Because to beat New London is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Even if you're coming off a bad season, beating and keeping them down, they want to get that pound of flesh because they're, for decades, it's not years, it's decades, we've been pounding the heck out of the other schools.
Even in youth, it's that way.
Huh?
Even in youth, it's the same way as it is in high school.
Yeah.
In youth football, we would lose a game, the teams would be in the middle of the field celebrating like they just won a championship.
Yeah.
It's been like that since.
So you're up against that every week. They take pride in that. Mm-hmm. These guys want to beat us, well, we'll show them. I mean, we pull together, and but it takes that concentration every week. You can't assume anything. You start making well, this team's weak. We can kind of step over them and look forward next week when we're playing a better team. That's when you sometimes can fall, and you don't take anybody for granted, because that team wants you too.
Yeah. One thing that I'm sure these guys will be, if they're not already, they will be tired of hearing me saying is, we talk about confidence, and the fact that confidence is ability plus preparation. And if you have ability, that's fine. But if you don't prepare every week, if you don't take the opponent seriously, if you don't study your opponent to every possible angle you can, then you're not truly confident. You have a false confidence. And the thing about false confidence in sports is that it gets exposed. And we will not have a false sense of confidence. We will be talented. We will be prepared. These guys will be physically ready to play the game. They will be mentally prepared to play the game. I've put the coaching staff together to make sure that that's going to happen. And then what's going to come down to is them on the field making plays. We're going to feel confident. We're going to be excited about it. And then they get to have fun.
Yeah, well, and it's more fun to win than lose, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
More fun to win. I had the privilege and pleasure of playing on some good squads. Mm-hmm. And it made it more fun. I can't imagine practicing in cold weather and a lousy team. We got to go. And that's another key consideration is that the work you guys put in practice, which is critical to success. Yeah. I mean, you can't dog it in practice and expect to win. Mm-hmm. You got to practice the way you play. And again, as seniors, the young guys are going to look up to you. So if you're not, when it's time for sprints, and if you're dogging it, they're going to say, well, those guys are dogging it. Why should I bust my butt? Yeah. And they won't. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've got to bust yours, and if they're not, kick theirs. Yeah. and it gets through to them. I mean, it's really important, and that you're in practice, that you take every snap seriously, and if you're on the sleds, assuming you still use the 7-man sled.
Oh, we do, yeah. Oh, we will for sure.
That those guys are in there getting their licks in and getting their legs driving, and I mean it's all important. And also to be aware of your plays and your responsibilities, so you're not making stupid mistakes. You know, procedure penalties. I mean, wait for the snap. I mean, wait for the call. I mean, do things right.
Yeah, be disciplined.
Penalties can kill you. I mean, just for silliness.
Yeah, that's one thing. To add on to what you were talking about, that I'm trying to work on this season, starting off now, is remembering that being in the inner circle, I obviously have like a leader role on the team. So whenever I'm in the weight room and I'm not having the best day, I still do my best to push and go as hard as I can, because I know that the younger guys, the freshmen that are in the weight room, are looking at me like he's slacking off. So like you said, he's slacking off. So why should I have to bust my butt to work hard? So I just try to keep that in the back of my mind, that there's people watching me and essentially looking up to me to see how I'm doing.
Well, for better or worse, the QB is the leader of the team. That's the lead position, and you take that one on, you're accepting all that responsibility that goes with it too. I mean, people aren't looking to the left guard for that; they're looking to the quarterback. So it's important.
I love the position. I love the responsibilities that come with it, and I just feel like I'm good for that job.
Well, that's good. You know,
Macho.
good to be challenged.
Macho here on the other side. He plays, and so part of the reason why I want to speak to him on the defensive side is he plays the. He's either going to play our alpha backer or he's going to play our ram, strong safety, and those are the two. If you had to label them, they're the two quarterbacks of the defense, quarterback and running back of the defense. And one thing that I will speak to with both Kiki and Macho is that I get the sense of, after just a month of being around them, I get the sense that they love the game and that they want to know more, they want to learn more. And the best thing as a coach is when you start to get text messages from guys saying, "Hey, coach, I'm seeing this," or "Hey, have you thought about this?" Or, you know, and it's not because every coach dreads the question, every coach dreads the text message, "I want the ball," or "Why am I not playing?" The good text messages are the ones, the good emails, the good conversations are, "Hey, coach, I noticed that this team does this," or "I noticed that that team does that." And when you get to that level, not only are you having players that are thirsty for that level of the game, knowing that level of the game, but you're also getting guys that you know are going to be going to the next level and playing at the next level. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have the mindset that when they get to college, it's not going to overwhelm them. If anything, they're going to get to college and feel comfortable.
Understanding the other positions and what their responsibilities are is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, we talk about the string on defense, the string of responsibility, and how when one player moves to do one action, it affects the next player. Yep. Both in front, behind, left, right.
It's important to know everyone's position and everybody's job on the field.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, you know, I think you're off to a good start. You got it appears to be a good staff. I know a couple of the guys. I mean, you know,
great staff.
Kazi was a terrific back in his day, and Kasim I met a couple of years ago. He was running for political office, actually, because I mean I've been involved in New London.
He's a New Jersey guy,
politics,
so you know he's tough.
For a long time, involved in New London government. So it's good to see him stepping up in that area as well. That he's willing to want to lead the community as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you were saying, we have a great staff, and not only they're a great staff, they're also all in the school. Like
all of them
are in the school.
Yeah, that plays a major role.
Major role. Waking up, not only seeing them after school, but seeing them during school, saying what's up.
Now, are you guys at New London High? Or are you at the STEM school?
I'm in the STEM program.
I'm in the STEM program.
I'm in the STEM, basically.
And you are as well?
Yeah.
Now, is there much interaction between the students at the high school and the STEM school?
Yeah, it's still mixed.
Like
it's just
everyone has classes in each building. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But depending on what you are, so say you are in like the science and tech program, you'll probably have a class specific to your pathway in the STEM program. That's a good way to explain it.
It's very similar to a college atmosphere, where now in college you have your major, and you have your building that you usually go to for your major, but then you may end up in other buildings for your general ed classes. It's very similar in that But I've been walking around and speaking with admins and my future fellow teachers. It seems like the district is making a conscious effort to really blend the experience and kind of make it more synchronized and a little bit more intertwined and intermingled. So kind of bringing that cultural or that social element to it. Yeah. So it's really neat. Me as a tech ed teacher, as a CTE person, I'm just as equally excited about coming in and teaching as I am about coaching.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know about off season, but in season, is there tutoring, or do the players, many of the players, need tutoring, or do you have how does that work? I mean, I've done mentoring and tutoring at the high school, not since COVID. COVID kind of put tough to get into the school now.
So what we do is, there's a few days out of the week before practice, we all get together in the cafe. Everyone does their schoolwork. We have our coaches coming around helping everyone. There's probably a few teachers too in the cafe. Everyone, it's like chemistry. Everyone's doing their own work. And for those good 20 minutes before practice, everyone does their work.
Mm-hmm. That's usually more in season.
I mean, it's important. I mean, that if you're not getting your academics done, I don't know, if you have any rules in terms of if the kids are not. I suppose the school's got, or the Board of Education's got their own standards as far as participation. If you're not meeting a certain minimum criteria, not that you're striving for the minimum, but to keep the kids eligible.
Well, eligibility is an interesting thing nowadays because it's very different than what it was when I was a student, and probably when you were a student also. And but I will say this: I'm being the son of a coach. Being the son of a coach who pulled me off the basketball team my sophomore year because I had a 78 in biology. The standard is very high as far as being a complete student athlete. We talked about competing on the field, connecting in the classroom, and then contributing in the community. The 3 C's that are going to make a good program and make a good student athlete. We need to, as you were saying, as we're walking through the hallway and as we're sitting in class and as we're at pep rallies and everything else, we need to remember that being a New London football player does carry a certain amount of status that needs to be earned. It's not given. And I think if we keep that in mind, that's going to keep us honest. And a lot of that, again, we've touched on it a couple times. A lot of that has to do with being in the building together. Coach Cassie Fletcher is in the counseling department. Our athletic director, Phil Orby's done, is making us, giving us all the accessibilities and resources to make sure that these guys are supported. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be strong academically and get the support that we need. And then it's a matter of time and effort. And you're going to put in the time, or you're going to make it a priority to be a good student, and then that's going to pass over in the field.
Ultimately, that's what's going to take you through life. The odds of becoming a professional football player, making millions of dollars, is about this big. Mm-hmm. So not to not have dreams and aspirations. Mm-hmm. I mean, but recognize that have a plan B. Have a
What I would love to see is, because everybody always talks about that stat, how it's 0.001% to become a professional athlete. I would love to know what the percentage is to become a coach. Yeah. Because all of those players that were so passionate about becoming a pro athlete, if they have the opportunity to give back and become a coach, I know a large percentage of them end up coaching. And it's usually the players that put the most time into being good at the sport, or being successful at the sport. They tend to make the best coaches. It's not always the most talented guy that becomes the best coach. It's usually the guy that has to work the hardest, or it's the guy that has to learn his craft the most. They end up usually becoming the best coach because they've maximized their potential, what is coaching? Coaching is taking each player and maximizing their potential and then bringing it together as a collective.
Yeah. So that's right. I mean, the more often than not exclusively, but the most talented people have a hard time relating. They anticipate or expect everybody can operate at their level, and they can't. And coaches kind of got to get everybody working on the same page and knowing their role and their job and maximizing their opportunity for the good of the whole.
Yeah, going back to coaching, our coaching staff and life lessons, I think what makes our coaching staff special is not only they teach us football, but we have life lessons, like father figures. Yeah.
That is, you're in my head, because I was going to just kind of hone in on that. I mean, some of the things that I loved about football are those life lessons. And the things you're going to learn, and sometimes when you're young, it's kind of hard to visualize until you grow up a little bit, get a little older. But I mean, believe it or not, you don't have to like all your teammates, or your coaches, or your teachers for that matter. But you got to learn to get along with them, because you're all on the same team. And as that saying goes, there's no I in team, and there isn't. So you got to learn to get along with people. I mean, whether it's folks that you didn't go to school with in grammar school, or maybe they didn't play youth football with you, or they're not in your little group. But you know what? When it comes time to, you need that block. That individual might be the one you just got to count on.
That's what I like about playing in New London. I think everyone has chemistry. Everyone talks to each other every day. We have group chats. I message group chats with our coaches. We all talk every day.
Yeah, school and everything. It's just such like
big brotherhood.
Yeah, but then again, big brotherhood, but it's such a small community because there's not that many things to do in New London. So in the summer, you're either Ocean Beach with your friends or Toby May playing basketball. So everybody's always ends up in the same place.
They were saying that when I was a kid.
Yeah. I will say I don't mind being closer to Watch Hill because when I was at Valley and a guy was missing, and I would check on Instagram or I'd check on Twitter, and I'd see he posted in the morning that he was heading to Watch Hill. Well, 45 minutes to an hour to get back to Valley. So, I had some guys running some extra hills at Valley because they were at Watch Hill a little too long. And, I remember playing, and I have a unique, my generation has a unique perspective because we were kind of the last generation to live in that simple lifestyle where it was you ride your bike to school, you're there in the morning in the summer for workout, you're at basketball camp till noon, you got baseball practice in the afternoon, and now you're talking from 8 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock at night, or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're playing ball. And that's what you're doing. And then after that, you're probably going and playing more ball, or you're going to the pool or something like that. In today's world, the life that we live, there's so many distractions, so many different things that could become distractions. And with football, we're trying to allow these guys to shine and be their individuals and be the guys that they want to be, their character, their personality. But then at the same time, it's that fine line between letting somebody be their own person, but then reminding them that this is the ultimate, between football and hockey are the two ultimate team games because you cannot accomplish much on your own, if anything.
Gentlemen, you might find this hard to believe, but our time is up. we have exhausted 50 minutes. No commercials. I want to thank you. You guys have been terrific.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you guys all came in here. We've had a wonderful program, and we'll have to have you back sometime, maybe when we get into the season.
Love that.
And bring you back, and get an update on what's going on here, so what we can expect of this coming fall. But thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Thank you for having us.
Okay, folks, you've been watching City Focus, and we'll see you again next week. Good night.
Go Whalers.